This is a fog light bypass kit from Electrical Connections that allows your fog lights to remain on when your high beams are on. Now, it consists of two connectors here that connect to the fog light harness, a switch so you can turn it on and off, and then this is the module that controls the system. And these two wires go back to the accessory leads at the fuse box for power. So that's the entire kit, and I'm going to go through a short video on how to install this on your motorcycle. In order to route the wire, I'm going to begin with the two power leads that go to the accessory terminal. Now if I squeeze these two tabs in and pull off the fuse box cover, we're going to connect those two wires to these two accessory terminals. So that's where those wires are going to get plugged in, the positive on the top and the negative on the bottom. Now I'm going to loosen these two screws for the two accessory power terminals. The top screw is the positive terminal and the bottom screw is the negative terminal. These screws can sometimes be difficult to remove. I use what's termed a Japanese industry standard screwdriver, which has a little sharper point on the end of it to loosen them. Once I have the two screws loosened, I'm going to slide the positive spade connector underneath the washer and put the negative lead on the bottom. And I'm going to tighten these two screws up, and then I'm going to replace the fuse box cover. Now I'm going to route the wire underneath this black cover so I can just kind of tuck it in up and underneath that cover and slide it forward. I'm going to take the control module and tuck it up under where the parking brake is. And for this switch, I'm going to zip tie it to this cable that's right here. And that'll hold it in a place where I can reach it if I need to get to it. So I'm just going to wrap the zip tie around the back, and I'm just going to pull the zip tie tight and zip tie the wire and the switch right there to that cable, and then I'm going to cut off the tail of the zip tie. So I'm going to continue to route the wire above this silver panel that goes over the intake manifold, and I'm going to slip these connectors down through the frame. And so looking at the front of the motorcycle, you'll see these two connectors come around this frame member, and I bring it straight down. Next, we need to get the wire over to the right side of the motor, over to the fog light, and we need to get it behind this black cover. So I'm going to remove the two left side screws. Remember, the bottom side screw that goes in this cover is different from the top screw. So pay attention when you take this apart so that you get the screws back in properly. So there's the bottom screw. So here's the bottom screw, and here's the top screw. The top screw has a little bit longer shoulder. But with those two screws out now, I can kind of pry this panel out enough that I can tuck the wire behind the panel. And so that's all I need, is I just need it out enough that I can tuck it behind it, and then I can put the panel back in place. And we're going to route these connectors that go to the fog light, then through the hole here and down over to the other side. And now I can replace these two screws. On the right hand side of the motorcycle, if we look underneath this front cowl, and I can kind of pull it back, you can see the electrical connector here that the fog lights plug into. So the first step is to unplug the connector, because that's where the fog light bypass is going to be installed. So you should be able to reach up here with your thumb and press on the lock tab on the back of that connector and just pull it out. So looking at the bottom of the motorcycle from the right side, you now can see my harness here. I've routed the two connectors over, and this connector is the connector that goes to the fog lights. So we're going to start, and you'll see that there are male and female connectors here, so you can only connect them one way. So I'm going to plug the connector for the fog lights into the bypass connector. So I'm just going to line up these two connectors and plug it in until I hear that nice solid click. So now we still have one more connector left, and that's the connector that gets plugged into the motorcycle side of the fog light harness. And that's that connector that's tucked up here underneath this front cowl. So you'll kind of have to reach up in there and manipulate the connector to get it in place properly. So I've just reached my hands up in here and I'm guiding that connector into place and sliding it in until I hear it click. Once installed, the way this works is when the switch is turned off, your fog light switch still controls your fog lights, turning them on and off. And when you put the high beams on, your fog lights will still turn off. However, if we come down here and we turn the switch on, just click it one time, the fog lights now will remain on even with the high beams. So this is what this looks like. You'll see the fog lights don't shut off with the high beam switch. And another point to note is your fog lights are always on now. Even if you turn the fog lights on and off using the switch on the dash, the fog lights actually do not shut off. So when the switch is in the on position, the fog lights are always on with the ignition, no matter what. So that's the way the system works, and you have the option of turning it off, on and off easily with the switch down here. So there it is.